Welcome back to the Tigers Den podcast, guys. Before we get started, you already know what we got to do. Smash that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're brand new. And make sure you hit those links down in your boy's description. Follow me on Twitter, IG, and Facebook at Big C Gat Game. So we end the season on a high note, beating Texas A&M 42-13 in the Sugar Bowl. But before we jump into the season that was, let's peep out the national championship game. And it looks like justice has been served. The North Carolina Tar Heels finished their perfect season by beating Michigan 34-21. So we put a bow on season 4, and we got to check out our season stats. This year we had 3 quarterbacks see significant time. Austin came into his junior year as the starter again, but got injured in the first game of the season. Jeremy Higbottom came in, and the offense just looked out of sync. So in came freshman Chris King. He threw for 1,185 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Austin came back in week 9 and finished with 1,696 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. If Austin decides to come back for his senior year, he has to cut down on those turnovers and stay healthy. On the ground, talk about a surprise. Joel Thomas had an unforgettable season. 330 carries for 2,189 yards and 29 touchdowns. He came in for Charlie Brooks, who went down in the second game of the season with a broken wrist. Thomas is a star in the making. He has crazy combination of power and speed. He could rewrite the rushing record for Grambling State. Now to Charlie Brooks. He was hurt in the second game of the season, only finished with 353 yards and 4 touchdowns. The dilemma we are facing, if Brooks decides to come back for his senior season, we're going to be loaded in the backfield. The combination of Thomas and Brooks and the running ability of Austin, we could have the #1 rushing attack in the country. Out wide, Chad Terrell led the way with 53 catches for 705 yards and 8 touchdowns. C. Tizzle was our #1 receiver. He made tough catches across the middle, but could still out-jump shorter corners. Freshman Sean Edwards was second on the team with 53 grabs for 1,018 yards and 6 scores. The last few games of the season, Edwards balled out, going over 100 yards in each game. Big tight end Rob Bradford finished his sophomore campaign with 45 catches for 519 yards and 9 scores. This year, Rob was more of a downfield option. He averaged almost 12 yards a grab this season. Demetrius Gunn was our other wide receiver on the outside. He finished with 35 grabs for 510 yards and 7 scores. Gunn was reliable when we needed first downs or a big play downfield. Freshman speedster Jordan Paxson finished with 30 grabs for 336 yards and 1 score. We're excited to see what we will do with him in his sophomore season. On defense, Josh Carey played out of his mind his junior year. 173 tackles, 58 tackles for loss, and 18 sacks. He was a true leader of the defense and set the tone every game. Second on the team was safety Brian Smith. The senior was our cleanup tackler. If Carey missed, Smith was definitely there to clean it up. The money man, Rich Maynard, had a huge sophomore season, 39 tackles and 22 sacks. Never did we think he would put up these type of numbers since joining the Tigers. Senior linebacker DeAndre Hodges finished with 42 tackles, and freshman free safety Mike Collins finished with 36 tackles. The pass rush was dominant this year, 3 players with 14-plus sacks on the season. Maynard had 22, Carey had 18, and big Cam Richardson in his senior year had 14. Shout out to Marvin Goff, he finished with 7, and freshman Torian Ray had 5 sacks. In the secondary, Fred Parrish led the way with 4 interceptions. Jermaine McConnell also had 4. Josh Carey had 4. Ron Bennett had 3. Rayshawn Baker, Chris Forwarda, Mike Collins, Fields, Victorian, and Heron each had 1 interception. Looking at special teams, sophomore kicker Nick Gordon pulled double duties. He finished 8 of 12 on field goals with his long being 43. And we only punted the ball 12 times, and Gordon averaged 44 yards a kick. Jordan Paxson returned 40 kicks for 1,084 yards and a touchdown. He's a dangerous weapon in that return game. He also had 673 yards and a touchdown on punt returns. And that punt return was one of the most legendary touchdowns I've ever seen. So it's time to put a bow on season 4 and hop into the off season. And first up is the coaching carousel. Coach Fobb, he's not going anywhere. He's locked in with Grambling State. Our only concern is losing our coordinators. But we only lost our offensive coordinator. Chris Pleasant left to become a head coach, but we welcomed Danny Langsford to Grambling State. He was let go from Fresno State, and in my opinion, he's an upgrade at O coordinator. But the big news is our defensive coordinator, Jeremy Pruitt, returns to lead one of the best defenses in the country. Now to the scariest part of the offseason, players leaving. We have a bunch of juniors that could declare, but the Tigers are fortunate this year. No juniors have decided to leave early. We have no transfers, but we do have to say goodbye to some important players. Safety Brian Smith, D-tackle Big Cam Richardson, guard Alex Blunt, and linebacker DeAndre Hodges. But unfortunately, no Tigers were drafted this year. So it's time to build for the future. It's time to jump into recruiting. We have 5 prospects left on the board. Corner Kenneth Johnson, linebacker Brandon Ginn, guard Reggie Jenkins, D-tackle Lionel Smith, and safety Jason Dukes. And the Tigers decided to put all their efforts into Johnson and Ginn. If the other 3 sign, that's great, but Johnson and Ginn are the 2 important recruits. So we get into signing day, and the rich just got richer. Johnson and Ginn are officially Grambling State Tigers. We did lose out on Smith, Dukes, and Jenkins. Landing those 2 studs, though, give Grambling State the #1 recruiting class in the country. We landed 4 5-stars, 6 4-stars, 5 3-stars, and 3 2-stars, 18 total recruits in all. Now to position changes, and we have a few players we need to shift around. We move 4-star freshman Marcus Berry from left tackle to the right side. Then guard Kyle Davis moves from the right to the left side. On the D-line, we're going to have some fun this year. Freshman Michael Anderson moves from DN to D-tackle. Then junior Marvin Goff will be our 3-technique D-tackle in our new 4-3 defense. Now to DN. Richard Maynard moves from the left side to the right side, and freshman Caleb Causey will be our new left DN. But we will have a rotation on that defensive line. Torian Ray, Nick Sellers, and Charles Butler will see playing time next year. At linebacker, Christopher Warner moves back to strong safety, his original position, allowing Jason West to move from left to right outside linebacker. So you have Carey, Brandon Ginn, and West as your 3 starting linebackers. A lot of speed and tackling ability. In the secondary, we are stacked at corner. We legit have 7 to 9 corners that can make an impact this season. Now for the fun, our athletes. Kevin Easley from day one, we had him marked at running back. The most interesting player has to be Joseph Clayton. He had traits to play on the D-line, but after searching, he can play center. Last but not least on the list is Charles Jackson. He will also be moved to the running back room. But back to Clayton, we had to go peep this out. He has a strong pass and run block trait, and his impact block will get better with time. So we sent him ahead to off-season training, and it's time to see how much better this team got. And fellas, wow. We have 299 overalls, wideout Chad Terrell and QB Phil Austin. So let's break it down position by position. Austin gets a +4 up to a 99. Sophomore Chris King goes up 5 to an 80 overall. In the backfield, both backs get a +6. The 1-2 punch of Brooks and Thomas is going to be unstoppable. At wide receiver, we have some studs. Terrell gets a +2 to get a 99. Gunn gets a +2 to a 97. Sophomore Sean Edwards gets a +5 and is up to an 86. And he even got a +1 in speed to give him a 99 speed. Cox gets a +4 and Paxson gets a +3. To the O-line, Mark Griffin gets a +5 for his senior year. At guard, Kyle Davis gets a much-needed +5 with solid pass and run blocking. At center, Golden gets a +6. Now the right side still needs some work. At guard, Allen and Williams both get a +6. Now to the defense, and our D-line is going to be insane. Torian Ray gets a +5. Charlie Butler gets a +4. While on the other side, sack machine Richard Maynard gets a +5. At D-tackle, Marvin Goff gets a +6. Jason Brown gets a +5, and Steven Stewart gets a +5. At linebacker, Josh Carey gets a +5. His tackle gets a +3 to a 99, and his hit power gets a +4 to a 99. At right outside linebacker, Jason West gets a +5. He got a little faster and got a boost in tackling and zone coverage. Like I mentioned before, we are stacked at corner. Rayshawn Baker, Ron Bennett, and James Herron all got a +5 and are an 87 overall. Jermaine McConnell gets a +5 and is up to an 85. Fred Parrish gets a +4. Lawson gets a +5, and Stovall gets a +4. And look at the coverage ability for each player. Right now, Herron is our shutdown corner. Bennett and Baker will battle for the second spot. It's going to be interesting to see the rotation at this position battles come the spring. At free safety, sophomore Mike Collins gets a +5 and is up to an 86 overall. And at strong safety, Will Gibson is an 85 overall, but is too slow to play safety. He could see some time at linebacker, but Christopher Ward gets a +5 and is up to an 80 overall. We were forced to cut one player, but ended up cutting several. First was QB Jeff Washington, then running back James Evans, wideout Josh Good, DN Spencer Williams, and at corner, Leo Lawson and Kyle Green both got cut, leaving GSU with 5 open roster spots. I don't know about y'all, but I'm excited for Season 5. It's already being called unfinished business. In the next video, we'll look at the schedule, the red shirts, and get ready for Week 1. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're brand new, and don't forget, hit those links down in my description and follow your boy on Twitter, IG, and Facebook at BigCGatGame. And have a great day, guys. 2 fingers in the air. Peace.